Standing up in McKinney, this is According to Cows. Well, it's the day after Election Day, and I am going to withhold the the results of the election game that I did yesterday. We're going to put that on Friday. I think it'll be fun. I want to take some time to review some of the major takeaways. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I give a special hat tip to Erin Anderson on her ace reporting once again. But before I get into the meat of the show, here we go. Look, this is a labor of love. I make no money off it. I make no bones about that. I don't know that I'm ever going to make money off of it. That's not the goal. The goal is to get the word out. The goal is to build an audience, to build some influence in our own community. And it would be fair to say that we're pushing that envelope. We are getting the word out. We are doing what we can do. And it's not about necessarily 100% lockstep agreement with Callus. It's not exactly about the idea that it's all about me, because it's not. It's about what can we do as a community? How can we be heard? Can we make a difference? And honestly, at the end of the day, it comes down to a question, does it even matter? Well, I would tell you the election results tell a very interesting story. Now, in fairness, a lot of that has to do with the Paxton Retribution Tour. And I got to say, they did a lot. But I'm not looking to piggyback off of that. I didn't, wed myself to that situation. In fact, I questioned some of the choices they made. But be that as it may, again, let me remind you, liking and subscribing and sharing this podcast is the biggest thing that you can do to help me. That's the biggest way to grow the audience. It's the biggest way to get the word out. We are a community that is somewhat insulated, somewhat isolated, and we need to do better than that. We need to get beyond our bubble of Collin County. We need to get beyond the bubble of, I guess, I would almost say hard right, although I don't necessarily identify as hard right. That being said, we have a whole lot of people that are center right and perhaps just straight up center. They need to hear our arguments. They need to know what we think. They need to know where our heart is. I think a lot of folks that are center, they make their decisions with their heart and then pay the consequences with their head later, right? So we need to have those intelligent conversations, but we need to also be able to share our heart values with them and do a good job of it. One of the things the party fails to do, and as a good loyal member of the Republican Party, that's been weighing on me, our communication stinks. We don't talk well, or we don't communicate well, or we don't speak well of the issues that concerns the people in the center. We're all about pushing to the right, and that's good, that's useful, that helps us get things done and hold people accountable. But if we can't bring it down the brass tacks to things that we can all agree on, center to the right, we're going to not win. And winning is how we get things done. So now that I've kind of got sidetracked on my own intro here, again, share, like, follow, join me on social media. I have a page and a group on Facebook. I'm a Gab Pro now. Come and find me on MeWe. Let's build a community. Let's continue to make a difference. Texas is the linchpin, and Collin County is one of the linchpins of Texas. Some would say Tarrant County is more important. I would put us both up there, right? We're both significant population centers that are still right of center, and we have a lot of sway in what happens on the outcome of primaries and general elections. We have to get our act together. We have to tell our story. We have to communicate well. And that's what I look to do each and every day that I show up to do this. Okay, so that being said, on with the program. All right, so I'm going to give you the short list, courtesy of Erin Anderson here. The incumbents that were voted out: HD 11, HD 18, HD 26, 55, 60, 62, 65, and 121. That's significant. There are 8 incumbents that went down there. Then there are, 9 nine other incumbent, well, I shouldn't say nine incumbents, but nine other races that have gone to a runoff. And I think that 8 of the 9 are in fact incumbents in a runoff. They are SD30, which we know is not an incumbent race, but we'll spend some time on that here in a few minutes. HD1, HD21, HD33, HD44, HD58, HD61, HD64, and HD91. Okay, so now we're going to go back and visit the ones that are most closely associated to where I live. That is Collin County. So up in Grayson and spreading east and west is HD62. Shelley Luther, the third time is the charm, and she beat Reggie Smith, the incumbent. Well deserved, well earned, and my buddy Kyle was very helpful in pulling that off. It's great news. HD65, which is essentially Denton County, going west. Mitch Little beat the incumbent. Again, great news. All right, so then we're going to kick over to HD64, which I want to say is Cook County, Parker County, a piece of Denton County maybe, but it's out northwest of me. Andy Hopper is going to be in a runoff with Stuckey, the incumbent, and I'm feeling pretty froggy that Andy's going to pull it off. And David Lowe has once again made it to a runoff with Stephanie Click, another incumbent, long-term incumbent. That's an HD61. Now, that's all good news. All right, that's moving us in the right direction. We need some more people that are going to hold the line in the Texas House. We have got a whole lot of what I would say are Republicans, but don't hold to the principles. They don't want to win. They're content to do little things. That being said, here we go. Now, I'm going to do HD61 last because that's near and dear to my heart. That's where I live. But we're going to go visit SD30. So Hagenbaugh, the guy that nearly ran the Denton County Republican Party into the ground single-handedly, resigned from that to run for SD30 after, well, a guy that campaigned with Democrats to win it in the first place when he beat out Shelley Luther. Now, interestingly enough, that same retired SD30 senator actually voted the right way most of the time, according to most of the ratings. But he resigned, and I think he's kind of bitter about it. Not really sure what that's all about, but he endorsed Hagenbaugh, as did the governor, the lieutenant governor, and allegedly Trump. And the guy couldn't win. He's in a runoff with Yarbrough. Now, look, I know there was a lot of contention in this SD30 race, and I had an opportunity to interview, essentially, right? I did I wouldn't call it a debate, let's call it a forum, with the 3 challengers to Hagenbaugh. He didn't even bother to show up, which I guess told those people in Collin County and Frisco just exactly what he thought about that race. I guess he didn't take it seriously. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So, and I'm going to use the words from Cody Clark. Now, Cody Clark, he came in 4th place. He did much better than I expected, and it's great. Congratulations, Cody. We've got the runoff. We've got Hagenbaugh on the ropes. Thank you for all your hard work and your effort. It was a pleasure getting to meet you, and I was perfectly content with whomever got into the runoff. But here we go. This is the words of Cody Clark, and you need to hear it because I don't think I could say it better. This result is an absolute embarrassment for Texas Hagenbaugh, or Hagenbaugh, Texas. I'm sorry. This is Twitter, or I'm sorry, X, and I don't do X, so forgive me, but I want to give credit where credit due. And mostly Alan Blakemore's political machine, despite spending $1 million on the campaign, 100 times the amount that Cody Clark spent, being endorsed by Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, Dan Patrick, as well as the outgoing senator and other Texas senators. Looks like Brent is stuck in the mid-30s. A note to Republican establishment. When you handpick a candidate, make sure they haven't donated to Dems, don't run their local GOP into the ground, learn the issues, can string a sentence together, and show up at the forums instead of skiing. And maybe live in the district. Lastly, when you knowingly endorse a liar, their lack of integrity leaves a stain on you. Know that you earned that stain, and tonight's result is the death knell of the Hagenbaugh campaign. I will be sending flowers. Hashtag SD30. Hashtag Texas Sledge. Cody Clark, extremely well said. Thank you very much for your work in putting an end to that campaign. Now, look, it's not over, folks. It's going to go to a runoff, and it's a question of whether or not the governor and the lieutenant governor are going to choose to double down. Are they going to stay in and support this guy? Are they going to go all in to win SD30 when there's a perfectly legitimate candidate that is also in the runoff that probably didn't spend nearly as much? J.C. Yarbrough's the guy. Let's see if he can pull it off. I'm not going to hold my breath because, the governor and the lieutenant governor, they want their guy. But I would like to think they're not going to throw more money after the bad money they've already lost. All right, now let's jump over to HD61. Now, this race is near and dear to my heart, and I have stayed largely out of it. I was involved last go-round 2 years ago. I supported the guy that didn't make the runoff, and I made the Hobson choice, I guess would be the way I'd want to phrase that. I chose to go with Frazier over Paul Chabot. Devil you knew better than devil you know it. However you want to put it, that was the second choice. And I rationalized it that, he's good at what he does. He was a lobbyist. He knows the people in Austin. He's going to be able to get things done. And he's at least nominally conservative. I can work with that. That's how I rationalized it 2 years ago. And this time around, it's like, I can't just come out and support the incumbent, but I'm not going to work against the incumbent. But more and more stuff came out, and it got salty. Look, Paul Chabot never went away, and he kept fighting the good fight because, he was making the claims on the dirty cop, which to some degree has proven to have some legs. He followed up, and I don't know if he caused, but he was at least related to the dishonorable discharge that has been tagged on Frederick Frazier, rightfully or wrongfully. I don't know the details, but that didn't go away. And what was disappointing to me is because I was willing to kind of give a mulligan on the sign issue. I really was. It's petty. It's foolish. As a candidate, you should never, ever touch your opponent's signs. You shouldn't even get into a battle over signs. The signs are there to get your name out. It's petty. But it's petty on both sides, or all three sides, or however you want to. The sign war. Come on, guys. Really? We should be better than this. But it unfolded, the Texas Ranger investigation. That didn't go well. It's embarrassing. We got a guy elected that then basically had to plead guilty. Now, look, I kind of knew from the onset that this was going to be adjudicated out in a plea deal. And if it was just the sign thing, I'm like, oh, really? It shouldn't be a felony. It's petty. It's stupid, whatever. But really, the striking thing is there is a recording that basically left the implication that he was a city official. That's a mess. You can't go there. Look, I've made excuses. I've tried to downplay it. I got to say, that's damning. I wasn't going to wait in the middle of that. I was trying to wait this out, see how it played out. I got to tell you, 68% of the people in HD 61 said enough is enough. Now, as much as I might personally like Frederick Frazier, as much as I might enjoy our conversations that we've had over the last couple of years, and as much as I think that he did an adequate job down in Austin, HD 61 spoke. It was clear. I don't know what that means going forward. This is another situation. The governor sat out. That was not lost on me. There was no extra outside help. A ton of money was spent in this race. Ultimately, it's going to come down, do the people that support him want to double down and spend a bunch more money? I don't think it can be won at this point. 68% of the voters said they wanted somebody else. I mean, that's more than 2/3. Now, myself, I'm quite confident that Frederick Fraser is not going to go away. I think that even if he takes the loss here, I mean, my smart money would be he's going to be a lobbyist. I think he'd be a very good and effective lobbyist. I certainly wouldn't want him opposing something I would want to do. But as it's played out, man, that's tough. I mean, that's a tough loss. I didn't see it coming, quite frankly. I figured they were going to probably pull the runoff. I did not figure that he was only going to be 600 votes above third place. I didn't see that coming. But, actions have consequences. I guess that's one of the things that Paul Chabot has been hammering on for the better part of a year. And ultimately, give credit where credit is due. This wouldn't happen without Paul Chabot and his tireless thing going on. And again, some of it's been, in my opinion, cringeworthy, but point taken. I mean, wow. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm not sure that I'm going to jump in at this point one way or the other. I would hope that cooler heads would prevail. I would hope that we can move forward. But we'll see. We'll see. And we're going to pivot out of this, and we're going to talk about some of the better outcomes, right? So I don't want to dwell too much on this because that race isn't over, and it's bitter. It's tough. So Scott Grigg handily won, got a few points over the 50 percentile, so there's not going to be a runoff. Congratulations, Scott. Campaigning for 6 years for the job. I hope now that you've got it, you're going to look back and say it was totally worth it. I really do. I was confident that you wanted it more than everybody else, and congratulations. And I think you're going to do a great job. That being said, let's pivot on to the other thing. Darrell Hale easily won re-election. It was a much closer than I would have anticipated, although there was some dirty money in there, some Democrat campaigning, if you will. But he weathered the storm, and away we go. Congratulations, Darrell. Big win. I guess I don't have much more to say on the other races. I didn't really wade into too many other races except for the most important race, in my opinion, going forward. The Republican county chairman of Collin County. Now, unfortunately, 217 votes shy of getting 50% plus one. So when you say an election doesn't matter, you say the primaries don't matter, this is case in point. 217 votes is all that separated 50 plus 1% for Shelby Williams. Now, look, you're free to support anybody you want in any given Republican primary. And for the most part, I'm not going to bash you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to call your names. I'm going to give respect where respect is due. Good Republicans, good conservatives can differ. We're talking about 1/3 of 1 percentage point is what separated this from having to go to a runoff. Now, I know there's going to be a special election on Friday. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Ideally, we would just go ahead and elect a caretaker, somebody that's going to serve for the next 6 weeks until we have the legit replacement sorted out. Secondarily, the next best thing would just be to go ahead and nominate the guy that just missed the 50% right off the bat, and let's get the ball moving forward. But I know there's a certain percentage of the precinct chairs that are not going to have any of that. I think that's very foolish. I think it's divisive. I think it's a problem. We have an election coming up in November, and all stops were supposed to be pulled out last year for a municipal race in Princeton Yet we're going to do a battle royale between now and May. For what? For what? We can just make a decision to either go with a caretaker until the primary is sorted out, or if that's not agreeable, just go ahead and let's elect Shelby and move on. Well, we've got a lot of work to do between now and November. We don't need to be wasting time battling this out. To that end, I'm going to make a few phone calls and see if we could strike something and get this done and over with so we can move on from Friday. I just don't see the wisdom behind it. I mean, we're going to have to deal with a runoff in HD 33 and a runoff in HD 61, a runoff in, let's see here, HD 91, HD 64. I mean, these are all close to us. And that doesn't even touch on the SD 30, which is all of Frisco. I really think we have better things to do with our time in Collin County. I really do. But look, we are working off of the idea that we want good representation. We want qualified and excellent representation. Sometimes we don't get that. Sometimes we have to suffer through bad choices. Sometimes we take the lesser of evils. We have a really good opportunity to get this done and over with on Friday and just put a exclamation point on it in May when the runoff is done. But I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm not necessarily wanting to call the shot, if you will, but I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed. This should have been simple. This should have been easy. And, I'm not sure how it all plays out. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And, I got to tell you, I did not think the guy in third place was going to get 17% of the vote. That's significant. But we have to get past our inner divisions and we have to move on. That being said, I have to also do the honorable thing. I want to congratulate Representative Shaheen, whom I actually did support, for the record. He's always been my most conservative member of the Collin County committee that we sent down there. And he ran what was mostly a very good, clean campaign. There was a little untidiness there at the end. Unnecessarily, I might add. But congratulations. I guess I'll go ahead and congratulate Candy Noble. I'm glad that Abraham George was able to do as well as he did. I imagine that we'll see more of Abraham. I wonder if the same folks that are going to create the stink on Friday are part responsible for Abraham not being able to get a higher percentage there. But, hey, you know what? What's done is done. Congratulations, Abraham, for running an excellent race. But, Candy, congratulations. I hope you'll take the lesson and do a little bit better job for us going forward. And that leaves HD 67. Honestly, my least favorite member of the Collin delegation, but he did win. He won handily. Darren Mice left it all on the field. He did everything he could do. He ran a good, honorable campaign. I was happy to give him some help and support and, respect the heck out of that guy. But at the end of the day, we got Jeff again. Jeff's our nominee. Whether we're enthusiastic about it or not, he's got the R after his name. And in November, we're going to have to support the guy. The other option is going to be so much worse. That doesn't mean we have to be enthusiastic. It doesn't mean that we have to be happy. But apparently 2/3 of the people that live in HD 67 were impressed enough by, I guess, $1 million spent by Jeff to keep a job that's essentially a part-time job. But nevertheless, he is our nominee. We must move on. I'm looking forward to chatting with Darren later this week. I'm hoping that we don't see the end of him either. I mean, he's a good guy. He gave up a city council seat to do this. I believe he I believe he did the right thing. I believe he thought he was doing the right thing. Having been on the losing end of an election myself and, watching this stuff play out, it's tough. It's really rough. But look, these guys need to hear from their supporters. They need to get the pat on the back, the well-deserved. And honestly, the winners, they've got to be gracious. They've got to be. Because those people are going to help you win your reelection. You need them back on your team. So hopefully the winners will be gracious. One other race of note. The State Board of Education, District 12, my buddy Chad Green ran in that race. He was outspent dramatically, I imagine, by the other three candidates. Certainly Pam Little spent a little mint. But at the end of the day, he got roughly 20% of the vote. The next one up got 26% of the vote, and significant spend more than Chad. And she's going to go into runoff with Pam, which I don't remember the exact number. I want to say she had the low 30s, with spending a mint and being the incumbent. This is good news. I mean, look, my buddy Chad's in the race. I was supporting him. I'm happy that he ran. He made a good showing. He's not going to go away. I'm looking forward to him running for re-election in the school board here in McKinney. Jamie's got his endorsement. Let's move on. I really don't have a lot more to say other than sometimes money's not enough to win. Sometimes the incumbency is not enough to win. I really hope that the Paxton machine gets involved in this runoff, even though this is outside of their sphere, because, look, this is an opportunity to flip another seat. This is another opportunity to flex. And if you doubt the power of the Attorney General in this state, this giant flex that's gone down is very, very telling. I mean, to a lesser extent, the governor got involved in a couple of these things, and he did a flex too, but the only one where they were both on the same side that I know off the top of my head was Justin Howland, and I fully expect that he's going to go down. But what's really interesting to me is essentially a carpetbagger beat him. And I don't mean that to disparage her. I know she worked for Trump. I know she's a good conservative and all that. But Dennis London's been running for essentially 4 years, and Dennis London is a really good, solid candidate. I'm really disappointed for him that he didn't make the runoff. But occasionally that happens, right? So I imagine that he'll do the right thing and endorse Howland's opponent, move on. But we have to take the wins, and we got a lot of really good wins. We got a lot of potential in the runoffs. Let's see what happens. And aside from my surprise on HD 61, I'm actually really happy with everything that I saw. Let's go on. Let's move on. The election is done. We've got a runoff coming. We're going to hopefully sort the things out with the Collin GOP on Friday, at least temporarily. And, we've got a general election to win. And we, the Republican Party, have got to show up. And we've got to show up in force. And we've got to make a statement. And for those that are already signing off on the demise of Ted Cruz, no, I don't see that happening. It'll be closer than we're comfortable with. But I'm very confident that Ted's going to be in the mid-50s. Very confident. I'm not writing him off. I'm not writing off the Democrat that runs against him. But I think the world of Ted Cruz as a U.S. Senator, and we've got to rally the troops. We've got to get this across the board. I don't care if you like Trump or not, but we got to keep Ted Cruz. With that, this has been, according to Callison, kind of a somewhat surprising outcome on the election cycle. And I'll be back tomorrow. But until then, I'll see you on the other side. I apologize. I neglected to actually highlight one of the most surprising positive outcomes of the entire election cycle, the legitimate curb stopping in CD3, the Congressional District 3. Keith Self dominated the field. There will be no runoff. Well earned, I might add. And I had the pleasure of seeing him on election day and telling him if anybody had earned their vote from the populace this go round, it was Keith Self. So I apologize. I neglected to do this in the body of the episode, But I wanted to not let the episode end and go away officially for the day without giving a special congratulations out to Congressman Keith Self. Now, I know my buddy Jeremy actually did better percentage-wise than he did last go-around, but it was whether or not Keith could avoid the runoff, and he did an excellent job, and he has earned your vote and our support. Let's go. Thanks.